The humble shed. A small wooden haven, often used but bursting with potential. To some it's just a storage spot for old tools and half-empty paint cans, but to others it's a sanctuary, a workshop, or even a creative hideaway. This is episode 1 of my shed's transformation into a YouTube studio and workshop. Let's start with a recap of what was done in the summer. The hard work was done in the summer of 2024, starting with insulation made from bubble wrap foil and aluminium tape. Workshop floor mats were then cut to size and fitted over foil tape to make the floor durable and energy efficient. The hardest part of this build was boarding the walls and ceiling, where I've used MDF wood, thicker on the walls, thinner on the ceiling due to the weight. This has made the shed more durable as a structure and gives me the opportunity to use it like a normal room. After finishing the insulation of the ceiling, I have then used spray foam to fill up any gaps to the outside and again improve the efficiency of the studio shed. A void has then been left on the peak of the ceiling to allow these battens to be installed that will hold the light source of this shed. The void will eventually help to route the wiring for solar panels and ventilation, which will be in future videos. Since we're talking about the future, why not click subscribe? Why, you might ask? Well, why not? Now that shameless subscribe call out inspired by you is out of the way, let's talk about the light bar I've made. As you've already seen, I've created the frame with battens that match the placement of the battens on the ceiling. I've then used thin sheets of MDF with aluminium channels along the edge to channel the LEDs. I've then spent a fortune on self-adhesive acoustic panels, which have been cut down to fit the size of the light bar. These are then going to be used throughout the build to make sure I don't annoy the neighbours too much. Now let's take a few seconds just to marvel in my masterpiece. I've started here putting more panels on the main studio, where reviews and most of the recording will be done. And then this is where I ran out of money. For a while I lacked the enthusiasm and I thought that YouTube wasn't for me. But that's not the end of the story. So it's January 2025 and with a new wave of get up and go, I've decided to restart the channel, get the project back up and running and really give it my all in 2025. And this is where we're starting, breaking the project down into episodes, the first being to get the main recording workstation set up. As you can see, I've finished installing the acoustic panels on the back wall and installed a desk, but on a budget. This is from a local charity where I've repurposed an old thick plywood fire door. It's sturdy and more importantly, cheap. Budget is the theme at this point. After spending so much money on wood and other materials, so this wall mount from Amazon is cheap and cheerful. As mentioned, boarding the walls, making the structure sound, means that mounting things like this is an absolute breeze. Taking Stanley and doing some rough measurements, this was up in no time. But I did mess up because the mechanism means that it's off centre. But to be honest, I think I'll be replacing the monitor I have with a proper TV in the future, so this will do for now. Speaking of the monitor, I've gone with the cheapest Asus monitor from Amazon. It does have a decent brightness and 100 millisecond refresh rate, so it's not completely useless, and for a shed build I'm not going to cry if it were to be stolen. Fitting the bracket and getting it up was nice and easy. It's very light, so a slight touch or a tug on the wires and it moves all over the place. For the purpose of this build, in its current form, it'll be perfect as a teleprompter, reference monitor and just general Netflixing whilst I'm doing other bits around the studio shed. Now this device would be worthy of a video on its own, but so many people have already done it. This is the MacBook Air M3. It kind of feels wrong hooking it up to this monitor, but here are the results. For the main review area, I've repurposed this craft mat. It's thick and durable and the lines actually help in framing the shots. From the overheads, you can see I'm using a not so stable articulating arm, and a new solution is currently on the way from Amazon. This is just a test. Currently you're seeing footage from a DJI Action 3. When a real review is done, I'll be using the iPhone 16 Pro Max with a sturdy arm and a properly framed shot, but this is just so you get the idea. And what better way is there than the Unbox Therapy inspired fake plants to complete the look. These are another Amazon special, but I haven't decided where I want them in the frame yet. Any ideas, please leave them in the comments. And with all that said, here's what I've created so far. It's not perfect, but it's a start. It feels good to get the first video of the year done, relaunching my YouTube channel, and hopefully you enjoy the content, so together we can grow the channel, eventually moving from a studio shed into a real studio. But for now, I'll see you in a bit.